Okay, so even before the inception of this channel, I've gotten a lot of questions on how I managed to make destructible walls and things like Gmod and Counter-Strike. You're probably familiar with it. There are a lot of maps on Gary's mod of destroyable houses and a lot of fake DMM videos. But what necessarily is fake DMM? Well, DMM stands for Digital Molecular Matter, and it's essentially the idea that if you shoot something, the bit that you shot will break off, or however way you damage it, it'll break realistically. Now, Source Engine does not support DMM because it was based back in 2004 with Half-Life 2 when they were still figuring out how to make cans that you could kick around, right? So the idea here is to try and simulate digital molecular matter without actually doing it in an engine that supports it. So the way of doing it is to essentially create a wall out of those quote-unquote kickable cans. So we're going to hop in the editor here, and we have a wall, just a regular wall. Now, with this, we're going to need to break it into smaller pieces. All the pieces here are going to be predetermined, so real digital molecular matter is going to have completely randomly generated pieces. However, these are going to need to be already there just because of the limitations here. So you're going to want to use the clipping bit here to turn it into a bunch of smaller pieces. However small you want. I'll make them generally big for this video, but they can get pretty small. Just don't make them really tiny if you're going to make something big, and I'll show you why in a moment. Okay, so now that we've cut this thing properly down into little slices, what we're going to need to do is we're going to turn these regular world brushes into actual entities. The shortcut for this is ctrl+T, and it'll turn it into a func detail. And func details are not quite what we want, but it's our first step there. And you're going to need to select these pieces individually. It's painful, it's kind of grueling if you have a whole bunch of tiny pieces. You might have to go over and select things several times because you missed a piece. But you can't select them all at once and ungroup them afterward, because when you Control-T on every single piece, it will make it one big entity. And to my knowledge, there's no way of separating them. If you do find a way, please let me know in the comments, because this would make the process a whole lot easier. But now that hopefully all of these pieces are func details, see, I missed the spot. Now that all of these pieces are func details, we need to change them into func fizzboxes. So you just start typing in fizzbox and you'll find it. Now the material type will depend on what you want. For this, I'll just choose cinder block. And the strength is what determines the health. This is going to be whatever number you really want it to be. It all depends on what you find to be the most satisfying, but I'm just going to put it at 50 for now. Now, to have these pieces actually break off, you're going to need the health level to override motion. We're going to set that to 40. It's good to have this usually above half. That's my findings on this. And I believe you're going to want to check motion disabled. Because originally, if you were to load this map without that checked, all these pieces would immediately fall apart. So you're going to have the motion disabled, and then this health to override motion will kick in, and everything will fall apart. So if I have everything correct here, I will load up the game, and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so now we're in game here, and you can see that when you hit the wall, a piece falls off. Now, this does highlight the potential downside of fake DMM, which is the piece needs to be damaged in order to fall. So sometimes you will get weird floating bits if it's not damaged correctly, but it's about the closest that you can get. And honestly, that's all you need. Just create func fizz boxes out of a brush. Make sure that you don't create a ridiculous amount of them, because Source can only handle so much. If you have a really tall wall and a whole bunch of debris starts stacking on top of itself, then the game will start to bug out a bit. But that's really all you need to be cautious about. It's a really simple, short tutorial, and the link for this map will be down in the description in case you're having trouble with your own. And that's really all. See ya!